The Knicks postgame show is presented by Tri-State Audi. Visit your Tri-State area Audi dealer today. Another game between the Knicks and the Pistons that goes right down to the wire. Karl-Anthony Towns in the fourth quarter for 3, but Cade Cunningham rose to the occasion in the fourth quarter with 13 of his 24, and the Pistons prevail 106-103 to force a Game 6 Thursday night in Detroit. There's a Game 7. It's back here in New York on Saturday. Great to have you with us, Bill Pidto, along with Wally Szczerbiak. So we talked about the importance of tonight. Another tight game. Whistles, it seems, like on every single possession. Knicks have to go back to Detroit. And remember, if there's a Game 7, the Knicks against the Pistons in this building are 1-4. Detroit this season, including the regular season, has won 4 of its 5 games.
Yeah, the Knicks are not instilling any fear in the Detroit Pistons. They came in here and they dominated this game pretty much finish. From the opening tip, the Knicks did not look like they were ready to close this series out. The possessions offensively, they're not moving the ball the way they should. They're not getting to the spots, and they're not putting the Pistons on their heels. The Pistons dictated the aggressive level, I think, on both ends of the floor the whole entire game. Now, the Knicks are a very good team, so they found a way to keep it close. Mitchell Robinson was very good. But the tone of this game was totally Pistons basketball the whole entire time. And you don't want to be messing with this team. I'm telling you, you do not want to be messing with this team. This team believes that they are going to come back from a 3-1 deficit and beat the New York Knicks.
Jalen Brunson, an off night, only 4 of 16. I mentioned Cade Cunningham, best player on the floor in the fourth quarter with 13 points. And also really important, with about 3 minutes to go, Hart and Brunson both shaken up on the same possession, down 2. They couldn't get into the game for another 2 minutes and change, and that really hurt the Knicks on offense down the stretch.
No excuses. Whoever was out there on the floor, you have to execute. You got Karl-Anthony Towns out there. You got Mikal Bridges, who had 13 points in the fourth quarter. You got to figure out a way to win this basketball game at home. It's the bottom line. I mean, you got to figure out at home to get a killer instinct to close this team out and win this series in 5. Now you gave this team a lot of life. You're going into a hornet's nest in Detroit. It is going to be bananas playing against this team now that they got this win today. But the Knicks got to figure it out. They're still of a 3-2 lead, but they're making it really tough on themselves.
All right, let's take a look at some of the highlights from this contest. Again, the third quarter hurt the Knicks. It's been the case throughout the series. They just couldn't make it up in the fourth quarter. Jalen Duren was a force down low most of the night. Well, Jalen Brunson had that miracle as they tried to get back from a 10-point deficit, and they were able to bring it in pretty close. Malik Beasley, though, with a bucket there, and then the Knicks here. Bridges had a big fourth quarter with 13 points.
He did. That was reviewed twice. They thought it was a 2-pointer. Then it turned out to be a 3-pointer. That was a big 3-pointer there. But overall, you know, Cade Cunningham just didn't have a good game, but he figured out a way to hang in there. Karl-Anthony Towns ties the game up with that big 3. But then Cade Cunningham just getting into the paint. Josh Hart gets undercut, lands awkwardly, hurt his wrist, and on that play, Brunson tweaked his ankle. And then Morris Sir Thompson, a career-high 22 points. Knicks made some heroic shots. Mikal Bridges first from the right corner, then Anunoby. And then McBride's got to make the first. He doesn't make the first, so he's got to miss the second. And that's ball game. And Dennis Schroeder again. That guy is a real pain in the Knicks behind. He had another big-time performance. Not scared of the moment. And the Pistons got a big win.
Look at the free throw shooting, Wally. The Knicks missed 11. Detroit missed 10. Knicks lose by 3. That's a huge number there, missing 11 free throws. You see everything else pretty close. Points off turnovers. Knicks got 19, Detroit 12. Bench points, 26 for the Pistons. Mitchell Robinson, excellent for the Knicks off the bench, but the Knicks outscored off the bench. Cade Cunningham only had 11 points through 3 quarters of play. What happened in the fourth quarter to get him 13 of his 24?
They were just aggressive. And listen, this series is coming down to Cade Cunningham and Jalen Brunson. Who's going to finish? And Cade Cunningham was healthy in this game. Brunson looks a little bit banged up. He tweaked his ankle again. And Cade Cunningham just getting whatever he wanted in that fourth quarter. Thought he made great decisions. We saw that play off the transition. We saw Brunson do that in the game 5. Game 4, and then we look at Cade Cunningham just knocking down shots all over the place. He's going to start making his threes, too. He hasn't shot the 3 ball well. If he starts coming off those screens and trusting that 3-point shot, That's going to be a big problem for the Knicks too, because that guy is really, really good. I think the Knicks have done a good job on him defensively overall, but the Knicks have to play really, really tight, quality, high-performance basketball if they want to beat this team and close this team out.
Karl-Anthony Towns, a lot of foul trouble tonight, kind of cut into his numbers. But Mitchell Robinson, tremendous off the Knicks bench. We showed you the Knicks have 19 points off the bench. Robinson had 13 of those, also 11 rebounds, and a season-high 8 offensive rebounds. Mitchell Robinson was excellent.
He was excellent. He neutralizes Jalen Duren and that big body down low. He was all over the glass. Loved the quickness that he showed defensively. I think the team was really good. Now, it's going to take some time to kind of just, when he's out there, get comfortable with him out there. Because, coming back from that injury in such big moments, with him and Towns out there on the floor, they looked a little clunky. They got to figure out how the offense is going to run. But the effort is certainly there for Mitchell Robinson and for the Knicks overall. I mean, Josh Hart, what a heroic effort by him. He was all over the place getting every loose ball, a la Mitchell Robinson getting every loose rebound. That was an outstanding performance by him. Those two guys, I'll tell you, they came to close this series out. There are some other guys that just didn't have it tonight. And unfortunately, it led to the Pistons pulling off a huge win. And it's going to be dicey in Detroit. It's going to be dicey in Detroit.
So through 5 games here, the Knicks are up 3-2, and they've outscored the Pistons by a total of 5 points. That's how close
and
this
that's
series
how good the Pistons are. This team is good. This team defensively, they are all over the Knicks. It's almost like they know exactly what the Knicks are running. I mean, they don't give the Knicks
Are they more athletic,
daylight.
would you say?
They're bigger. They're athletic, they're young, they're well coached on the defensive end of the floor, and they really believe that they are coming back to win this series, and that is a scary thought.
I mean, what if the call goes the other way in Game 4?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Knicks be down 3-2.
Listen,
I know you can't go back.
They would not have lost this game. If that call went a different way, I truly believe the Knicks would have played this game differently, and they would have came out and played differently. The Knicks did not play at the level you need to close out a good team in the playoffs when their back is against the wall. They have to learn from tonight at home, and they have to turn it around in Detroit and play at a higher level.
All right, well, let's now say hello to Monica McNutt. Helped call the game on the radio on ESPN New York. Monica, what did you think tonight watching game number 5?
It was too bad that head coach Tom Thibodeau had to use that timeout to get Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart off the floor. Like, that is just, talk about a bounce of bad luck, because then you have one timeout to go, and when Brunson nearly steals the basketball in front of the Knicks bench, he can hold and call the timeout, and that probably plays out the last 5.4 or so a little differently. But all in all, as much as we have appreciated Jalen Brunson for being clutch, I thought this was a big-time game for Cade Cunningham. He had 13 points in the fourth quarter and decided that he was not going to allow his team to lose this ball game. And so now we move on to Game 6.
Monica, what is it that teams, especially Detroit, can come into the world's most famous arena, the Knicks home court, and get wins like this? How are they doing it?
Wally, I think for me, and we said this pregame, one of my keys was Karl-Anthony Towns playing downhill. And I have 2 trains of thought that are sort of competing on this, in that the Knicks have come back from being down in this series, and it has made for masterful fourth quarter finishes. But on the flip side, do you then find a comfort that betrays you in being able to do that? And so I just wonder about the moments at the start of the fourth quarter, even in the third quarter, where you have an opportunity to continue to put the pressure on the Pistons. Meanwhile, Cade Cunningham, as I mentioned, having a terrific game. Malik Beasley finding himself from the three-point line in a way that we had not seen while these teams were competing in Detroit. And Jalen Duren playing with tremendous confidence. And so I think you saw a Pistons team that grew in their confidence possession by possession, looking for, especially Cade, their postseason moment to say that they have arrived of sorts. And so this is a big stage, and guys don't get to the league because they shrink away on big stages.
Monica, you mentioned Jalen Duren. He had a game-high 14 rebounds. Game 6 now back in Detroit on Thursday. What do you think?
This is very reminiscent of the series last year with Philadelphia. On the one hand, I think the Pistons have enough fire and respect about themselves that I'm not totally surprised, but I think for the Knicks to have been as close as they were in the fourth, based on what we've seen, you thought that they would go on to take over. And I already mentioned the timeout for the injuries that you wonder about that. But that place is going to be on fire. They're back to playing physical basketball. The Knicks have to get back to the basketball of Game 3 and Game 4 where they're forcing the issue downhill. And to be this close, guys, in a game in which Jalen Brunson did not have his signature 33 points I think he's averaging in this series, that's a big deal. So there are things you take away from this, and as Karl Anthony Towns said earlier in the series, that's the nature of a series. You win, you lose, you learn, and then you go ahead and make those adjustments.
Okay, Monica, we'll talk to you on Thursday night from Detroit. Game 6, pregame at 7, game at 7:30. When we come back, Tom Thibodeau's post-game comments as his Knicks lose tonight 106-103. Knicks lead in the series down to 3-2.
The Knicks post-game show is presented by Audi. Visit your Tri-State Audi dealer today.
The Pistons stay alive. They force Game 6. They win tonight here at MSG 106-103. Back now from the Corner 3, presented by Michelob Ultra Superior Light Beer. So the Pistons prevail in Game 5 tonight. That means there will be a Game 6, and it will be Thursday night in Detroit as the Pistons will try to force a Game 7. Post-game comments now from Knicks coach Tom Thibodeau, as always, presented by Chase.
Tom, when you had Jalen and Josh there on the scores table waiting to check it, get in, what was the thought process of not calling a timeout or not getting them back in the game as that lead kind of went up?
Just where we were with our timeouts, coach's decision.
Your overall thoughts on the officiating today?
It is what it is.
Coach, how hard is it for players to adjust when the game is just called differently, right? From the first couple of games, it was very physical, both sides. This one, it seemed like they were calling touch fouls versus before. What's it like for a player to adjust? What's the message to them to adjust?
You got to adjust the way they call it.
When Steph was referencing, you were, I think, one foul away from the bonus. Is that why you chose not to foul there, too, to stop the clock, to get those guys in?
Just coach's decision.
Tom, just more specifically on that, like, when you have one timeout in that situation, you obviously don't want to go into the close part of the game and the end of the game with no timeouts. What are you weighing there in order to try to get guys in? Like, is there a marker that you're waiting for in
Well,
time?
you're looking time, score, penalty, timeouts, all of the above. What's happening in the game? You feel like the next possession, we'll put it away. Like, there's a lot that goes into it.
Tom, you talked before the game about the focus on tonight, but again, a 10-point deficit in the second half. You see the same sort of things third quarter.
Yeah, we got to play for 48 minutes.
Just what was Josh Hart dealing with when he briefly left?
I haven't talked to medical. He had to go out. Jalen had to go out. OG had to go out.
Going back to Detroit, Coach, what message do you send to the guys?
The challenge is to reset. Every game's different, and take a look at the film, see what we could do better, and be ready to go next game.
Tom, the crunch time in the fourth quarter, I know you talked a couple games ago about wanting to kind of get into the offense quicker. It seemed like you guys were getting into your sets a little bit late in the fourth. Was that something that you felt like was a problem, or do you think?
Well, yeah, we had some guys that were out, so that's the challenge. We didn't know when they were coming back, if they were coming back, so that's part of it. So you got different combinations out there.
Coach, can you talk about what Mitch gave you guys tonight?
Yeah, I thought he gave us good lift, good energy. The rebounding was good enough. Defense was good enough. Our turnovers hurt us, so we got to clean that up.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Yeah.
All right, so here's the situation. It's a 2-point game, about 3 minutes to go. Hart and Brunson have to come out each banged up. Mm-hmm. He's got one timeout left.
Right.
He's got a big decision to make. And to your point, you got to save the one timeout. You can't stop the game. And as a result, there was no game stoppage.
Right.
So 2 minutes come off the clock in a tight game, and 2 of your 5 starters are waiting to check in. They can't get into the game.
You're in the penalty. You don't want to put them on the line to get 2 easy free throws. And you need that one timeout just in case you're down at the end of the game to advance the ball to half court in order to get the ball in bounds and get a shot at the basket with 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever it is left in the game. That last timeout is so valuable. So you just got to trust the guys out there that they execute, make a play, get some stops. And, once the first stoppage came, obviously Brunson and Hart got back in that ball game. But, the Knicks made a couple of heroic threes. They were right there. And then Jalen Brunson, let's not forget, he got his hands on that inbounds ball. He threw it up in the air, and it was right in front of Karl Anthony Towns, and Tobias Harris tipped it away from him, and it went right to a Detroit Piston. So that was a 50-50 ball that if the Knicks get it, they got the ball down 2 with a chance to tie this game. This game was hectic at best, and, this series has been hectic at best, and, hey, 3-2 now, and we're going to Detroit.
Very little flow. It seemed like a foul every time down for each team.
Yep.
Tom Thibodeau didn't seem real thrilled with the officiating. JB Bickerstaff never seems happy with the officiating. He got teed up tonight. We'll get his post-game reaction in the aftermath of his team staying alive, beating the Knicks tonight by 3. Welcome back, everyone. Pistons stay alive, beat the Knicks tonight 106-103. Cade Cunningham, 13 of his 24 in the fourth quarter. And we have the Knicks and the Pistons game number 6, pregame at 7, game at 7:30. Postgame comments from Detroit coach JB Bickerstaff on the excellent play, especially down the stretch from Cade Cunningham.
He's the guy. We've talked about it before a ton. He understands the moment. He understands when and how. And it's basically, with his skill set, it's make or miss for him, right? Like if he can get to his spot, regardless of what you're doing defensively, and then it's just a matter of him, making or missing his own shot. And again, I was glad to see him late in that game. He finally started to get to the free throw line, which changes the way teams have to guard him also. Yeah, I mean, again, he's a heck of an offensive player, right? Phenomenal offensive player. But I think Asar, from a mental standpoint, like a want to, there's not more people out there that want to get a stop the way that he does. He's gifted athletically. He's got great instincts, but what's, to your point, the fun part is like he gets to see the guy over and over and over again, and then he grows every single game on understanding what's the best way to defend him and how to make it so difficult. You remember early in the series, he got a couple cheap ones in the backcourt, because he was over pressuring. Now you see him working his way back, still turning him, but he's not getting those cheap ones. He's able to stay on the floor and be impactful. So it's fun to see him learn and go out and execute it.
Were you surprised the Knicks didn't call timeout there to get Brunson and Hart back in the game when they were kind of the score stay with that stretch?
That's their job to coach their team.
Also on the style, obviously we talked about how rough those first 4 games were. Refs letting you guys play. What do you think of how the tone changed tonight in terms of the way the fouls were called? It seemed like they were being a lot tighter for both.
I mean, again, it's one of those things that's just completely out of your control. And I hate to, make this series about refereeing and the officials, because it's not, right? This is a series about 2 highly competitive teams that are battling their tails off, trying to do whatever it takes to win. The physicality, I believe, is a good thing for the game. It's a good thing for us. Obviously you got to protect guys and be safe and all those things, but you know what I mean? Like, this series isn't about the officials. This series is about 2 competitive teams playing great basketball against each other.
However, 51 total fouls in this game, second most for a playoff game so far this postseason.
Hey, if the players are going to foul on every single possession, the refs have to call them. They're doing their job. I mean, both these teams are trying to get away with anything and everything on the basketball floor, and the referees have to keep them honest. I think they're doing a good job. It's not an easy job. I've always said that. Refereeing, it is tough. It is very, very hard. They're scrutinized at the highest level, but these are the best officials in the world, in my opinion, having played in the NBA. And you got to live with their decisions at times. At the same time, both these teams are very even. They're very competitive players. Each matchup is very tight out there on the floor. So guys are trying to get an edge in any which way they can. And sometimes you'll get away with some and sometimes you won't. But I think the officials overall, they missed a call at the end of Game 4, which really benefited the Knicks. But I think overall they've called a pretty good series, in my opinion.
Got to mention Asar Thompson. Coach Bickerstaff talking about how effective Thompson is, especially as the series goes on. Yeah. Jalen Brunson only 4 of 16, and Thompson's defense had a lot to do with that, did it not?
It really did, and he's tough. And like Coach Bickerstaff said, he's athletic, he's big, he's strong, and he's very mobile. And he moves his feet well, and he has given Jalen Brunson fits just to get the ball up the floor and organize and run offense. And that is my biggest concern with going in the rest of this series. Can the Knicks get the ball moving? Can they get their bodies moving? Can they at least make a pass from point A to point B to kind of get the Detroit Pistons a little bit at a disadvantage? I think the Knicks are really struggling to find good shots. I think they made some desperation threes at the end of the game. They made some desperation shots. But overall, they got to figure out a way to help each other get open and help each other as a team get better looks at the basket.
All right, Thompson, the 22 points, and the great defense here he is now after the game.
My mindset was to keep playing our brand of basketball. Down 3-1, doesn't matter. Just keep pushing the pace, keep playing defense, getting stops, and that's when we're at our best.
You've obviously had the big responsibility of guarding Brunson. Just what have you learned about that matchup in general, and then tonight, like you probably had one of those first halves. What was going in favor of that matchup?
Just being aggressive, but being smart. Knowing what positions I'm in and not, letting him take advantage of that. And I feel like that helped me a lot.
What can you share about the message Coach J.B. Bickerstaff shared with you guys before the game?
One game at a time. Win this game. Don't even worry about the next two. So now the message I'm sure is going to be, win the next game.
You've seen Cade obviously do a lot of things this year, but this was the big stage, late in the game, closeout game, and he made the big baskets down the stretch. Was that as good as you've seen him in that type of a moment?
Yeah, I've seen him do that 1,000 times, so it doesn't surprise me at all. Like I expect it.
Hey, you were taking advantage from the dunker spot a lot tonight, and it seems to be an area you seem to get more and more comfortable in. How have you been able to be so effective?
Just reading the ball, reading where Cade is, and just my teammates help me out a lot. JD, Cade, JD. So yeah.
Thompson tying career high with 22 points in the great D. Josh Hart banged up down the stretch. See how he's feeling. His post-game reaction is next. Pistons win tonight by 3. Welcome back, everyone. The Pistons forced Game 6, beating the Knicks 106-103. What's it mean? Well, we're on the air Thursday with Game 6. Knicks another chance to close it out. Pregame at 7, game at 7:30. Josh Hart, 15 points, but banged up late in the game. Here he is in the locker room. First question from our Alan Hahn.
First and foremost, Josh, how are you feeling?
Feel good.
Was it the wrist?
Wrist, back, but yeah.
What was it like being at the scorer's table, standing there watching the clock melt away as the team was trying to make the comeback?
Obviously, that's tough. You always want to be out there, but, we had good looks. I trust my guys. We had a couple good shots to cut that lead, and, they just didn't go in. So, basketball, it happens.
Josh, what did you go back to the locker room for?
Just needed to regroup, walk it off, and then, try to go back in.
Which wrist is it? It's
my whole body's bothering me.
This series has been, especially the last few games, one possession finishes. What was the difference tonight?
We got to figure out how to come out of halftime better. I think this is the third game in a row. I'm blanking on game 1 and 2, but we go into the halftime with a lead, and then we go into the fourth quarter down. So we gotta figure that out. We got to come out at halftime more aggressive and, punch first.
You guys were sitting there at the scorer's table for a while the clock was going. Did you think someone would maybe intentionally foul? Or there was one
No,
time
I mean, that's tough, because you're not trying to foul. We got stops. We got good looks. Like I said, I trust my guys, and wasn't our day today, but we'll regroup, watch the film, learn from it, and then we got another one on Thursday.
Josh, with the injuries that can pile up in a series like this, how important is it to end this series as fast as you can?
I think everybody in the playoffs, they want to win every game. I don't. I don't.
In other words, you don't want it to come back here for a Game 7.
I mean, you want to win every game. Yeah. If it was, if I had my way, we would have swept them. Yeah. Or if they had their way, they would have swept us. We're not looking at that. We just got to make sure we focus on fixing the mistakes that we had today and going to Detroit, ready to go.
So, Wally, Josh Hart says his whole body's bothering him.
So, yeah.
General soreness.
That's about right. At this time of year, the way that guy plays.
First time all year, by the way, the Knicks don't have a single 20-point scorer.
Yeah.
Anunoby led the way with 19. Not a single Knick had at least 20 points tonight.
Well, that's evidence of how hard it is for the Knicks to run good quality offense and generate good shots at the basket. I'm telling you, this Detroit team, they're all over what the Knicks are trying to do offensively. They're all over certain matchups and making it hard. We're thinking with Tobias Harris guarding Karl Anthony Towns, he should be able to get whatever he wants in the post. Tobias is fighting pretty hard in the post. He's doing a pretty good job when Towns gets down there and tries to post him up. He's not letting him score very easily. So there's a lot of fight left in this Pistons team. This Pistons team is a young, hungry team, and Knicks got to be ready for them. They got to elevate their play if they want to knock this team out. They got to play a lot better basketball because today was a C- effort, and you're not going to beat this team with a C- effort.
Towns only 5 of 14 shooting, a lot of the time going up against Harris, who had 17 points. Here's Harris now after the game.
No pressure. No, like my mom and dad sitting up there watching me. Grow up in Long Island, New York. My father used to always, on the weekends, drive me into the city to play against city competition. Every single weekend as a kid, and being able to go out there and play the sport that I love and have the joy and be able to compete with this group and see my parents up there, family and friends. It's no pressure. It's just a joy now of going out and playing and doing whatever I can to really help the group play, and just help this group win in any way possible. And I'm extremely appreciative and grateful to be a part of this team and to be with these guys. The funny thing about this team is everybody's like it's backs against the wall type mentality, but this group really loves being around each other, and I think that was one of the biggest things. We don't want this thing to stop. We got to keep on fighting, and I just thought tonight it was a full-on effort. You see, guys on the bench, their spirit, their influence, and their passion, and wanting us to just strive out there is amazing. It's a whole organization and a whole group fighting for each other.
And we've talked about this. A year ago, Detroit wins 14 games.
Yeah.
This year, they win 44. How'd they get better? Well, one of the reasons, the acquisition of Tobias Harris to provide that veteran leadership. Talked about how special it is to play here at MSG, being from Long Island, and he has been very solid in this series.
He's been really good. Tim Hardaway Jr., Malik Beasley, those three guys. They've come in and really stabilized that Detroit Pistons franchise. You put them together with some good young players and Cade Cunningham and Duren. And a big key to this series, the X factor from both teams to me is Dennis Schroeder, because that guy, when he comes in the game, he has the most confidence, in my opinion, of any guy on the floor. That guy does not lack confidence the way he plays on both ends of the floor, and he goes out there and does his thing. And he's helped this Pistons team do a lot of good things. The Knicks still do have a 3-2 lead, which is huge, despite the fact this series has been so close. it's just going to be interesting to see how Game 6 goes. A lot of drama, and it doesn't get any better as far as the NBA playoffs. This is exactly what you want if you're a fan on both sides. You want a series that is this close and games that are this close.
You mentioned Schroeder, 14 points for him off the Pistons bench. For the Knicks, Mikal Bridges, excellent fourth quarter with 13 of his 17. We'll get his post-game comments coming up. Stay with us. Knicks lose tonight by 3.
The Knicks post-game show is presented by Audi. Visit your Tri-State Audi dealer today.
Welcome back, everyone. The Pistons win tonight 106-103 to force a Game 6. We'll have Game 6 for you Thursday night. Knicks back in Detroit. Pregame at 7, game at 7:30. Mikal Bridges tonight, 13 of his 17 in the fourth quarter. Here he is after the game with Alan Hahn.
What was the finish of that game like, especially with two teammates at the scorer's table waiting to come in?
Yeah, it was tough, man. We didn't execute where we wanted to, personally as well. Yeah, it's tough. Just got to get ready for next game.
Going into this game, closing out a series, you guys went through it last year. Though this team went through it last year. Yep. But how difficult is it to get to that, to finish off a team that has been playing scratch and claw in this whole series?
Yeah, for sure, man. It's a playoffs, two really good teams, and they're not going to go down without swinging. And, yeah, we got to be prepared, for on both ends, and just couldn't get it done tonight.
You knocked down that 3, that final seconds of the game, and you guys still had a chance. Yeah. I mean, go take me through that moment of just desperation shots at that point.
Yeah, man, just, you don't stop playing till it hits 0. So, obviously I wish I had a couple of shots in that fourth that I thought it was going to drop, but like you say, you miss, you can't just keep your head down. You got to keep going until clock is 0, and we still had possession, so I had a chance at the end of the game. But yeah.
What do you think you guys can do to, come out stronger out of half?
I don't know, man. I think we gotta maybe do some lay blinds or something coming out of halftime. Get everybody out there, moving. I think that's. I had the same situation like that when I was in Phoenix. We started the third quarter off, and we had to change something for everybody to get out there and start moving, mentally to get everybody right. So I think that's it, man. We just got to, as much as we say playing hard, and we got to do what we say it every time, and we still don't get it done. So I think maybe warming up or something got to get us going a little bit.
Without Jalen, times when maybe a call wasn't going your way in the third quarter, when maybe you guys were getting frustrated, does that sometimes maybe contribute to those struggles in the third?
Yeah, man, we just got, we talk to each other, tell each other we got to leave the refs alone. It's part of the game, they're human. They're going to make the right calls, they're going to miss the calls. You just can't, let that control you and affect you, and then, the team get out in transition and, it messes our game up. So we just got to, just know it's us out there, and just stick with it together.
Jalen's been so good for you guys down in the clutch. Was it kind of like a weird thing that those last few minutes he wasn't out there?
Yeah, it's just it's different. He's gonna have that ball. But don't mean that we can't step up. I should have made shots and hold it down for him as much as he hold it down for us when we're out there. So we just gotta be better.
Here's your comments here about the third quarter. Knicks fell down by 10 in the third quarter, but as it was, Detroit only won the third quarter by 4 points.
Well, yeah, the Knicks bench, when they came in, they made a little bit of a run to get them back into that game. Mitchell Robinson was huge with the energy. That's inexplicable when you come out of halftime in your home building and you don't have that aggressiveness. The more aggressive team is always going to be rewarded by the officials, always going to be rewarded in every way, shape, or form. And these teams are so tightly matched when you look at the matchups head to head and one-on-one, that you have to take it upon yourself to be the aggressor. If you lose being the aggressor, fine. You can just you can be okay with it. But when you lose being the team that's a little more timid and you're not the one coming out and attacking.
Well, what causes that from game to game?
Well, I mean, the other team is thinking the same thing. So each individual, each one-on-one matchup, he's trying to be the most aggressive player, and I'm trying to be the most aggressive player if I'm playing against you. And it's up to you as a person to take it upon yourself to make sure you outwork your individual matchup, and as a result, then the rest of the team outworks your opponent. And that's the goal. And I just felt like tonight this Pistons team, they didn't back down, and they kicked it in high gear for the whole entire night. And they kept the Knicks to the point where they were not doing what they wanted to do. And the Knicks were not dictating the way this game was going. As a result, they ended up with a loss.
Welcome back. Wally, the Knicks unable to close it out tonight in Game 5. There will be a Game 6. Pistons win at 106-103, and we will have Game 6 for you right here on MSG. Pre-game at 7, game at 7:30, as the Knicks will have their second chance to eliminate the Pistons. Let's take a look at some of the highlights from tonight's game, and as has been the case throughout the series, close from start to finish.
A lot of dunks for Sir Thompson in this one. He was playing the dunker spot and living up to that name. Jalen Brunson, heroic, huge shot. Knicks did not generate good offense like the Detroit Pistons, who got a lot of easy buckets, dunks in transition. That was a big three by Mikal Bridges in the fourth quarter, pulling up on a 2-on-1 break. Nails that three-pointer. But Cade Cunningham down the stretch of this ball game, Bill, he was very effective. Knicks got it to tied at that point. Karl Anthony Towns knocks down that big three, but then they did not relent. Cade Cunningham continued to attack. Josh Hart hurts his wrist and back on that play. More easy baskets. Cade Cunningham slicing and dicing the Knicks up. So now the Knicks down 5. Anunoby hits that three to cut it to a 2-point game. Down 3 here. Missed by Deuce. And then he missed the first free throw, which he needed to make. Bricked that one. Then he bricked the second one, which he had to try to miss, which he did. But then the Pistons got the rebound.
All right. Look at these scores. Through 5 games, the Knicks have outscored the Pistons by a total of 5 points. Here's Karl Anthony Towns now after the game.
Carl, Detroit was plus 10 from the line tonight. Could you just sense early that they conservatively just came out and played with a little more force offensively tonight?
I mean, you expected that. It's a closeout game, 3-1, and you expect them to come that desperate and also come with that energy. Season's on the line, so they hit shots when they had to, and got the stops they needed when they needed to.
Carl, what'd you think of the officiating tonight?
It didn't change the fact we didn't do our part. So if we do our part, then we have a different combo.
Carl, when that stretch where Jalen was out of the game, can you just take me through what was going on there and why the offense really couldn't get going?
I gotta watch the tape. I don't have an answer to that because I gotta rewatch it. There was a lot going on when all that happened, so I gotta rewatch it before I could give you a good answer.
Carl, just back to your officiating. What's it take for players to figure out how a game is being officiated and make the adjustments? What does it take?
It just takes for us to not be worrying about that. I think, we got to worry about the things we can control, the controllables. We can control our effort, we can control our execution, our discipline. I think that's the part that we need to be focusing more on than the officiating.
Did you have any feeling for why it took you guys kind of a long time to get started today?
We just, we put ourselves in a deficit early. All series, we've been fighting back, and I'm not sure right now. I know I got to watch the tape, but I think for us, we just got to do a better job of executing at a higher level, stay disciplined with the ball, prize the basketball a little better, all of us. So when I watch the tape, I have better answers.
Carl, as you said, you guys have been able to come back, particularly in the fourth quarters in these games, and close them out. Just obviously, there are just little things that make the difference. Tonight, what was the difference in them being able to just hold you guys off?
I think in the fourth they got a lot of 50-50 balls. Just basketballs. That just so happenly ended up in their hands, allowing them to get some points off of blocks and steals, and just things that sometimes it just goes your way. So, but also too, you gotta give them credit. They put themselves in position so the game could go their way.
Carl, we've praised your guys' resiliency all season. Obviously, you guys have
won some games here in the fourth. But is there a little bit of concern about the hole you guys are digging yourselves in prior to the fourth? I think you guys have trailed going into, if not all the third quarters, most of them. Is there equal concern as there is for the praise and closing it out?
I mean, you have a good point. You know, we haven't put ourselves in a position to get a commanding win. You know, we've been very gritty this whole series and physical, and it's allowed us to find a way a lot of times to win. I think what was the differential in Detroit, like 3 points. So, you know, you only could do it so many times before, you know, it comes back to bite you. I think that tonight we put ourselves in that position and we just didn't find a way to get that magical ending.
Carl, you're not a particularly up-tempo team. You know, you run opportunistically, but not up-tempo.
We're better with pace.
Yeah, what I was wondering about the pace that you guys were playing with tonight. It seemed like maybe slower to get into your initial action in a lot of sets.
You know, like I said, when we're executing at a high level, we've shown in this series how good we could be. So I think you make a great point. You know, we didn't come out the gates with that kind of pace that's needed against a team like this. And we kept finding ourselves having spurts of energy when, you know, when you're playing a game like this in a 3-1 lead, a game that, you know, to end the series, you know, you got to have that kind of pace for 48 minutes. We just didn't do that tonight.
Is there anything you want to do differently going into Game 6 personally?
Win the game. That would be on the top of my list for sure. This? Oh, don't worry about that.
All right, so here's what's ahead. We know there's going to be a Game 6 Thursday, pregame here at 7, game at 7:30. If there is a Game 7, it is Saturday back here at MSG. We will have the game for you right here on MSG Network. Pregame, game, and an hour-long postgame if there is a Game 7 on Saturday. All right, so to Detroit, the series goes, Wally, for Thursday night. And the Knicks won both games in Detroit by a total of 3 points. 2 points in Game 3, 1 point in Game 4.
Crazy series. And you mentioned how Detroit has won 4 out of 5 here on the Knicks home court. Well, the Knicks won the first 2 games in this playoff series on Detroit's home court. So home court obviously doesn't mean anything. In the end, I'd like to be on my home court in big games like this. And we'll see if home court can start to hold serve, because normally it does in the playoffs. And it's going to be tough for the Knicks to go in there, especially how banged up they are, to get a win there in Detroit. But they always have Game 7 to fall back on. But they can't think like that. They got to play at a higher level in Game 6 and try to end this series now.
Yeah, only 1 day off.
Yep.
Team's going to travel tomorrow to Detroit, Game 6 Thursday, and hopefully Jalen Brunson's okay with that ankle, and hopefully Josh Hart is okay. And as Hart mentioned, Alan Hunt after the game, his whole body hurts. And Hart is so courageous, puts forth maximum effort on every single play. Hopefully he's able to put forth a maximum effort in Game 6.
Jalen Duren took a hard fall. Mitchell Robinson hit the ground hard. Everyone's banged up at this point. You just got to find a way to will your way to victories in the playoffs.
All right, so it's Game 6. We're going to have it for you right here on MSG. Pre-game at 7, game at 7:30. You can also stream our coverage on the Gotham Sports app. Want more than just a post-game show? Link your eligible TV subscription to stream Knicks games free, or subscribe today in the Gotham Sports app. Just go to gothamsports.tv to learn more.